Alright, I'm not sure if this is gonna work. I'm having device issues and this is an older one, so we'll see how it works out. If it does work out, I hope everybody's well. So what is there to say? Wow. Um, most people, well, I'm sure everybody knows what happened with Trump. And all I'm gonna say is that I prayed for the people who lost their lives, and I've prayed for our world leaders, whoever they may or may not be. Um, and I wanted to touch on an aspect of that most people entirely disagree with me on, and that's okay. I understand. I know that when I reach out on this forum, I'm not finding a whole lot of other people like myself. I'm not finding a lot of individuals like myself in person either. I've never fit into one group or clique, but I want to talk about that for a minute, and how it affects all of us, at this time. I don't particularly like to talk about politics. I don't like how it has divided people. Um, it is its own sort of cult, I think. And again, I mean no disrespect. People think that I'm part of a cult because I follow Jesus. We tend to deify things, we tend to idolize things and people. And the problem with that is we're always going to be disappointed. At least God is limitless in our mind. We can't fully comprehend what the creator maker is capable of. But the possibilities are limitless. We should not limit the maker creator in our minds. And sometimes that can be hard to grasp onto. I'm talking about these things because I think it affects all of us, and I know that my opinion doesn't matter much. But as someone who has not participated in politics overly much, I actually feel like I have an advantage, maybe because I can perceive it from the outside, and I'm not emotionally invested in any of those people that were shown on the screen. Again, of course, I pray for people who are suffering in harm's way, struggling, who have lost their lives, people who have lost loved ones. But there's a point where you separate yourself. We're seeing these things on a screen, and in a way, it is the image that we are worshiping when we look at these screens. Whether it's to use it for the internet, to read things, to look at people, to stream music, that's divisive in and of itself too. I don't begrudge anyone their politics. I don't judge anyone based on their politics or their religion, really. It is the content of someone's character that matters the most. But it is heartbreaking to see how manipulated, especially the younger people are, and how emotionally invested they are. And to see just people overtly trying to bait others, and it's called rage bait, these videos that, are extremist in nature. I'm astounded by the things that are allowed to go on right now, the last few years. And then the other things that we ridicule or degrade. Evil has become good and good has become evil. Not in reality, not in truth, but that's how this is all being written out. I'm going to talk about your sovereignty for a moment, and this is something that I touch on throughout the journey with you guys and whoever chooses to be here with me, and thank you for spending your time with me. It is surreal being on the cusp of everything. Like, I don't fit into any one group. I'm kind of a part of every group. And it just really gives you almost an internal conflict against your own nature. But I guess we all fight that, don't we? The dark wolf and the light wolf. Feed the white wolf and starve the dark wolf. Allegedly, that's what, according to Navajo legend, that's what we should be doing. I don't even know what to say anymore. Politics has gotten to be like WWE or UFC. And that mentality is so broad and all encompassing. And I see so many people getting lost and tied up in it and idolizing individuals who are not your peers. Let me repeat that. I made a comment on a channel years ago when I first started all this, and it had something like 6,000 likes when I deleted the other channel. So I know people are hearing this. These people are not our peers. I'll get to the fringe element of this in a minute because we have to touch on that. This is all about bloodlines to them. I don't personally care. I have a vested interest, again, in every angle because I have family on every side of this. And whether they recognize me or not as family, I recognize them and I love them and I care about them. And I genuinely enjoy being around the people that I'm around now, especially the younger people, but I see them being so manipulated. I had an issue recently, and please don't turn the channel off. At least have the respect to listen to why this is my perspective, because maybe this is something you haven't heard before. I don't know. But maybe you'll be able to have a takeaway. Somebody was telling me, you gotta vote. You have to vote. And I don't get mad. Like, I'm not mad. But like, have a conversation with me. Don't just start yelling at me like we're at a wrestling match and I'm some Karen that is just being totally unreasonable. I have people follow me, dirty old men. I told a lie and I confessed about it, but I told a lie just to get someone to stop leaning on me and being so whatever. Everyone thinks like you're their property where I'm at. I don't understand where this mentality is coming from in people. I can see why certain people in history become hermits and hide themselves away, because even Christ had an effect on people. Like, certain people couldn't be in his presence. The Pharisees would start tearing out their own hair. Why is that, do you wonder? What would cause somebody to lose their composure so much? I don't vote and I don't have to vote. And out of everyone that has a complaint, I think people that don't vote have the biggest say. I don't care for any of those people. Now, on a local level, if I thought there were honest, regular citizens who wanted to serve, who did it for a minuscule salary and not some house on a hill, then yes, I would vote locally. There's something to be said for small community governance or council. I wouldn't even call it governance. I would call it council. And I'm not anybody special. I don't have any say in any of this. But again, there are people that I love in every group. And so I'm a part of every group because of them. You see how we all affect each other that way? Sovereignty, preeminence, excellence, superiority. Sovereignty, when we think of that word today, we equate it to royalty. That is not its original etymological meaning or root. Old French, souveraineté, sovereign, sovereign. The meaning, existence as an independent state, state of being in power, character and power. Of persons, great, superior, supreme, having supreme power, highest. Superinus, superinus, in vulgar Latin, superinus, chief principle. Over, above, potent in a high degree. In case you've never heard this before, you are sovereign. You are. Now, this is why it's important that there is some type of basic rule of law to protect people who aren't out there harming others and taking others' belongings and possessions and things of that nature. I don't have to vote. I don't have to do anything. I refuse to choose the lesser of two evils. And on a spiritual level, and I'm going to say this as plainly as I can, would you marry a stranger that you didn't know? Would you bind yourself to that person if you did not know them and did not know what kind of decisions they had made in their life, and you didn't even know if they were a real person? You never met them. They're just a picture, an image. That's what you're doing when you vote and put somebody else's name above your own. You're saying, I give permission for this person to make decisions for me. No, I'm not doing that. Absolutely not. Especially for images on a screen that very well may not even exist anymore. And I'm not going to get into that aspect of it because I know how triggered that makes people. Hear the sirens? It's like the city here now. Somebody important indeed is coming. Everything God has given me has been proving out to be true. Every time I mention anything of any importance, somebody tries to feed me or hug me or distract me. I had to hide that I no longer eat animals. Like I do on occasion, but I try my very best not to. It's a sacrifice that I gave up for God, and I don't have to tell any of you this, but I choose to because I don't judge you. Your walk in this life is your business. I'm not like a super converter of saints. I wish that I could be. That'd be awesome to get people to just recognize that, number one, you're a sovereign being, but there is one above you, mightier and higher. And if you need that one, all you have to do is ask. Voting is a right. Of course, they want you to think this. It's not a right. A right is breathing. That's your right as a biological being, is to suck air. Like, come on now. Something is coming upon America, a judgment like none of us could have imagined. And I know people think people like me are alarmists, and it's not that. It's already happening. It's being covered up with this oversaturation of media. Recognize what they're not showing you. What is happening to people? Why are they keeping people separated? Why are they backing us all into corners? First, we were saying Biden's a deep fake or wearing a mask or something, and now this thing happens with Trump that looks very fishy in a lot of different ways. Again, I've prayed for the people who lost their lives because I'm sure, again, I've even seen YouTubers bleed in their videos, and then suddenly something happens for them. Why is that? What are they doing there? What is that about? Because I'm seeing these patterns and these cycles repeat themselves. So they mean something. The Black Eye Club. You think I would ever dare to put my name down under one of those beings? No. Now, Trump, as far as that goes, he's a great businessman. I'm sure a lot of the debt would go away. But who's going to who's going to pay the cost? There's going to be a cost for whatever happens here. Do you remember when he read that snake poem in front of everybody? Think, who's his running mate going to be? Why did Harry decry the royal lineage and titles and move to LA? Guess who else moved to LA? Everybody that thinks I'm crazy. We'll look at that in a second. Check this out. I just saw this morning before I started this video. Watch this. Oh, I'm sorry, not LA. New York condo. Oh, and look at how much it cost. Do you see that? Is anyone even watching this at this point? Do you see? 6.6 million. Huh, fancy that. That's a neat number, no? Huh. Gee willikers. Gee willikers. Who else lives here? His son, a certain Ginger. You think I'm BSing about that pattern too? Look at this. Isn't this something? Well, the pattern just keeps happening. Watch. Let's find him. Let's find him. You see what I'm typing in? So where's his interview? He's got wild spiky hair. He had a visor on. And again, it's a CNN interview. There's the man who lost his life. Corey, I believe his name is. That's allegedly who did the deed. Let me see if I can find this young man's interview. Oh, that's not the right one either, is it? Oh, you know what it was? This is funny. This is the other part of the pattern. It's BBC, not CNN. Because I was like, huh, there's that pattern playing out again. If I can find him. Right there. It's this one, but I don't want to. There's got to be a still image of it already, isn't there? Let's see. This guy right here. Him. He was interviewed by BBC, a British correspondent who was apparently here in Butler, PA. Or I'm not in PA right now, but I have cousins in Butler. I grew up there, 20 minutes from there. But gee, there's that red-haired pattern I was talking about, along with the UK thing. I'm going to show you something else, too. I'll do a short upload of something I noticed when I was at work the other day having a cigarette, and I just happened to look up, and somebody in a small town northeastern Ohio has a giant UK flag in their window. And that's also what my youngest son went as. He went as their flag the last time he went trick-or-treating. The one that I'm supposed to believe is... Anyway, if you haven't seen those videos, you can. So you are sovereign, my friends. I do not vote because I do not know these people. I don't know these individuals. I barely want to be married anymore. I don't want my name tied up under anyone else's. I serve God and I serve people every day in some way, shape, or form, and I love it. I love doing that by choice. Nobody's going to make me vote for some guy who's going to become responsible for worldwide genocide. And it is happening now. And it will continue to happen. Because nobody is looking at the right things. And everybody has this Messiah complex. Whoever it is that they like or whoever's team they're on. I don't know if people are legitimately eating too much red meat now and it's like doing something to their heart, like giving people high blood pressure. But I can feel the violence in the air. I hid that I was vegetarian as long as I could at work because people look at me like I have 3 heads, especially Christians. Well, what about the sacrifice and this, that, and the other? I don't know about that. I know Christ. And the rest I'm trying my best to muddle through. And I know Father. But nobody's going to tell me what I have to believe. And nobody has that right to tell you that. Because what's going to happen here, and so many of us called this. So many of us smaller, minuscule channels that have been blocked and harassed and targeted. Do you know how many YouTubers turned into missing people? The very topics they covered? You should look into that sometime. They are doing whatever they can to suffocate our voices. Just like several years ago, it was all the holistic, quote unquote, MDs, people who were saying, you need to get off the pharmaceuticals. All those people mysteriously, but not so mysteriously, were ended right out in the open. I'm not judging anyone for voting. I don't judge anyone else for driving and using oil. I partake. I get rides too. But I think we need to be wise. And I think this is why the youth is angry at our generation. I think it's why we're angry at the ones who came before us and so on and so forth, is the greediness and the lack of care for the person coming behind you in things. And I see the lack of compassion in people. I can't believe somebody that I've known for my whole life pretty much said to me, all you ever want is compassion. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't know there was a limit. I'm not asking you for a hand up. I'm not asking you for applause. I'm not asking you for anything other than to have some heart. And that's what I'm concerned about, is none of those people, we're going to get the leader we deserve. And it's not going to be one with any heart. None of them have it. None of them have heart of a servant to serve. A true and proper leader or a king is a servant. They lead by example. If we're all serving each other, nobody is harming anyone. If I'm treating you how I want to be treated, and so on and so forth. And it sounds corny. It sounds like an idealistic hippie concept, and people hate it. And I know this. And I also know that bloodline has a lot to do with that too. I don't fight over that. Again, I have a vested interest in every side of this. But not everyone here has complete and whole and human and unbroken human DNA. And if trauma can change your DNA, then it's not an ever-present, never-changing element. We read up on that. I'm not a doctor. All my disclaimers are in the description. We do the research together here. So if trauma can actually change your DNA or change the DNA of an infant in vitro while it's inside of a woman, how are we putting people to jail over things like that? We have to ask bigger questions. We have to ask the right questions. And I'm not saying it's not a real science. I'm saying there are elements that we simply don't understand, and that makes us easier to manipulate because then we believe anything that these experts tell us. And that's a dangerous place to be in, when you blindly believe anything that's told to you. I believe in Christ because there's a case for Christ. I believe in the Bible because there's proof of a flood all over the face of the earth. I believe in God because we're still here and we haven't been annihilated by some flying piece of rock yet. Which is a good segue into this. Apophis, look at the first 3 numbers. 999, turn them upside down, what are they? Invert them, they are 666. Funny, my mom grew up in a little town called Apollo in Pennsylvania. This stuff is saturated around us. We are in Babylon. We are Babylon. America's not in the Bible because it was called something else then. It didn't just spring up suddenly. Why did 10 different people discover it in several different places of the coast so they each thought they were the first? Leif Erikson, Columbus, Magellan. There's just 3. I know there's plenty more. Think, ask the right questions. Let's check this out because it leads to an interesting little sidebar. I don't know. Can you just not? Okay. I don't care. Okay. Apophis, provisional designation 2004, is a near-Earth asteroid and a potentially hazardous object with a diameter of 370 meters, or 1,210 feet. It caused a brief period of concern in 2004. They thought that it will hit Earth on April 13th, 2029. However, they've been watching it until 2006. That possibility remained. Apophis would pass through a gravitational keyhole of no more than about 800 kilometers or 500 miles in diameter, which would have set up a future impact exactly 7 years later on April 13th, 2036. Interesting that number 7 is supposed to be how many years the tribulation lasts, but I will also say that the ones who teach the Bible, especially the one with the black cover and the name of another king on it, when we're supposed to have one king, that is Christ. So why do they carry around a book that has the name of another king on it? Ask these questions. They are the offspring. They are the hybrids and the servants of the hybrids. The Freemasons, the Luciferians. Protestant Mass probably is a black Mass itself. I don't know. I haven't got that deep into it. Most people don't know that. Most people aren't looking at these similarities. Why does the KJV look like a book of shadows? Why did they bind it in black leather? There's something wrong with the things we've been told. Nevertheless, they know it's true. And they know the moment they get more power, like those spiritual bindings that are holding them are kind of loose, that it is their time. Now, do we believe this? Do we believe that this is actually going to happen? Do we believe in planets? Are you a, what's that, or flat earther? What's the other one? Electrocentric? Geocentric? Do you believe in the firmament? I think science called it the Van Allen belt in my day. And we've all seen the video by now on NASA saying we've never left near Earth orbit. Well, gee, then how did we get to the moon? And what are all those videos of the moon? And how did they call from a NASA office to the moon when there weren't any cell phones yet? And even if there were, do we know that they would work that far? Would they need a satellite phone? Would that work? Is space really water beyond the firmament? I think so. I think there's water out there. It's just a feeling I get, and I think they hide God pretty well. We've seen NASA has cloud-making machines. So is this actually going to happen? I don't know. But it's the numbers we're looking at and the patterns we're looking at and the names that they use and the dates that they're saying that these things are going to occur. That's what we're really paying attention to, because perhaps it'll be the excuse that they use when it's literally God's angels, like Uriel and his discs of fire, setting things ablaze. Or maybe that happened already and we're in a different era. People think things are getting, they think that things are going to be great, that like, oh, we're all rich and this, that, and the other. That's causing inflation. The fact that there are all these wealthy YouTubers and internet influencers, It's actually not a good thing for capitalism. I don't believe in communism. I think people should be free to speak and live how they please as long as they're not doing harm to another. And I believe that resources should be shared and that there should be no such thing as poverty. But you can't force people to be charitable in their lives, and you cannot force people to share things. Energy is free. It is in this entire realm already, and they know how to harness it. And it's very possible that they are using Tesla's plans and that they are hidden in plain sight. What do I mean by that? I want to show you this real quick because I want to take your mind to a wider perspective when we look at this Apophis information. So this actually might help. This device is an older one. It is slow, so I apologize. Right there. It is very possible that these reactors here, these towers, are simply covers on the outside of Tesla inventions. I forget the exact one that I'm thinking of. We can look at him too. We should more, especially how he used carrier pigeons. And the CIA continued this in the 40s up until the 40s. And now there's a campaign that birds aren't real. And I actually wouldn't doubt that they're not all real. Not at all. And I know that sounds far out there to people, but you have to take your mindset to a wider perspective because you're going to be greatly manipulated from here on out. And it is going to tighten, or it is going to be the final shackle of our enslavement. And I don't want to see that happen to people around me. I don't want to see it happen to people I love, because even people like me who can see it happening, we might just get pushed over in the wave. You know what I caught up in the flow of things, right? Because people around us are. We might not have any, I don't want to say choice, because we always have a choice, but it's harder. You know, like when they herd cattle into their stalls, same way. We just might end up getting bowled over and pushed in there, even though we have not participated. Okay, so now that I showed you that, I want to show you where the name Apophis comes from. Because again, what's important about it is the numbers and the patterns that you see happening and the different things that they talk about. Radius 609 point or 60696. So that's interesting, no? And so they're saying April 2029, but again, something has happened. A lot of celebrities have kind of taken off from this area, from, well, allegedly, from the US anyways. So let's go here, and I want you to see, hopefully it'll work. It tells you who discovered it, the discovery site, Kit Peak, the discovery date, June 19th. I think that's very close to summer solstice, guys. Pronunciation is Apophis, named after a Greek god, Apophis. I'll continue. Minor planet category, Aten, Neo Fa. Okay. Again, this just gets wild, all the synchronicities here. So it tells you how long it'll be visible, all the different measurements for it, blase, blase, on and on and on it goes. Stuff that I don't understand and I don't think we need to know right now. But hang on. So they're saying they ruled out an impact on 2036. Planet Venus overtakes Earth every 1.6 years. Da 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 da. Discovery and naming. There we go. Apophis is the Greek name of Apep, an enemy of the ancient Egyptian sun god Ra. He is the uncreator, an evil serpent that dwells in the eternal darkness of the Duat and tries to swallow Ra during his nightly passage. Apep is held at bay by Set, the ancient Egyptian god of storms and the desert. People say, well, this is just how, man, we created stories. Really? Really, we created and invented all of these stories. We must have had so much time on our hands to do nothing but fabricate stories that parallel outward. These patterns continue everywhere of duality, of Enki, Enlil, Christ, and Lucifer. It's throughout history, right? And it always surfaces in this religious type of way, and it is reflected in the planets above us. When there is a war in the heavens, so shall there be on the earth. So they are assuming, there's a part on Wiki that I didn't know about, that if you click on it, you can go over to like talk. And I looked at all the information they gave about this. This is an assumption, okay? On this phone isn't showing me the option, but they're saying they were fans of Stargate 1 and that Apophis is an alien, and that's true, but Stargate started after this was discovered, Apophis. So you kind of have to understand that Stargate is based on Egyptology or whatever their religion is called, the religion of Maat. So I want to go up here. Apophis is the Greek name of Apep. So here we go. So they named this asteroid, this giant rock that they discovered in the sky, allegedly, they named it Apep. So even if it exists or it doesn't exist, right? But again, the Vatican allegedly has they know that there's stuff up there, right? Like they know this. Oh, right there it is. If you click on that on talk, it tells you when all of this stuff was added, because you can add to wiki links yourself. And that's the problem with it. You have to be very reading when looking at things. Demon creature. But being the embodiment of evil, it would seem reasonable to classify Apep as one. He's correct about that. Okay, so Apep. Also spelled Apepi, Apep, ancient Egyptian. Pape. Oh. Pape. Coptic, Greek, Apophis. Ancient Greek, Apophis was the ancient Egyptian deity. So how did it go from Egyptian to Greek? So you see throughout history, empires rise and fall all the time. America will be no different. Again, we're not alarmists. This is just the truth, man. And I'd rather see people spiritually sound and mentally strong on the inside. I can't do much to prep your body. I'm just trying to keep my own in shape. The young people run circles around me every day, but it's actually really nice to know that there are young people out there who are responsible and work and serve others in some type of way for not much money at all. However, that doesn't mean the same as being a slave. There is more important things out there as well. It takes a healthy balance to try and maintain yourself in this world and in this time. So anyone who can maintain some semblance of order in their own life and their own body seems like they're probably on the right path in that way. Anyways, the ancient Egyptian deity who embodied darkness and disorder. Gee, kind of seeing a lot of chaos out there right now, aren't we? Now look at that. Apophis is also the symbol on the book that the boy is looking at in the movie, The Never-Ending Story. Now I'm realizing that not everybody understands my references. So if you're younger, I will try and touch base on all these aspects. But the point being is that these legends repeat themselves and come up and rise up to the surface again and again and again throughout human history because they have truth in them. Truth needs no defender. It stands on its own and it does not fall. So these things did happen. These beings did or do exist. Okay? It was the ancient Egyptian deity who embodied darkness and disorder and was thus the opponent of light and Ma'at, order or truth. Now, we've read some of that, the rule of Ma'at, the life lessons or whatnot. Someday somebody will be doing that with Jordan Peterson's book, calling him a demigod or something in the future. Ra was the bringer of light and hence the biggest opposer of Apep. So Ra was the bringer of light. So hold on a second. Ra is the enemy. Well, then how can the enemy have light? Right? Let's see. Well, no, that's right, because Apep is the snake. Ra brings light. But we're told the same of Lucifer, right? But we're told it's a false light. So let's read on. My concern is that these beings have been around a lot longer, and so they rename themselves and reemerge insert themselves into human history over and over and over again. That's just my theory. Ra was the bringer of light and hence the biggest opposer of Apep. Okay, so Apep is the god of darkness and disorder, like chaos, right? His abode is the Duat. Now, what is the Duat? Just so you guys can see. The Duat, come on, is the underworld in ancient Egyptian mythology. Okay. He is written of in the Book of the Dead. His symbol is the snake, of course. Now this gets interesting. Sigils are fascinating, and it would do you well to learn a little bit about them. I've tried to bring them up here and there because they're inside our computers. They're actually in our walls, on our motherboards. There's a reason for that, guys. Because Ra was the solar deity, bringer of light, and thus the upholder of Ma'at. Apep was viewed as the greatest enemy of Ra, and thus was given the title Enemy of Ra, and also Lord of Chaos. The Lord of Chaos was seen as a giant snake or serpent, leading to such titles as Serpent from the Nile and Evil Dragon. Some elaborations said that he stretched 16 yards in length and had a head made of flint. Okay, presented on a Nakara seaware bowl, now in Cairo, a snake was painted on the inside rim combined with other desert and aquatic animals as an enemy of a deity, seemingly a solar deity, who is invisibly hunting in a big rowing vessel. The snake on the inside rim is believed to be Apep. Wow. The few descriptions of Apep's origin in myth usually... Sammy! He is snoring, guys. I'm sorry. Sammy, stop that. I'm just trying to rest my knee. I've been having a real hard time with it, so I need to not over push myself because I can't be down and out completely. The few descriptions of Apep's origin in myth usually demonstrate that it was born after Ra, usually from his umbilical cord. Geraldine Pinch claims that a much later creation myth explained that Apophis sprang from the saliva of the goddess Neith when she was still in the primeval waters. Her spit became a snake. That reminds me of the story in Gnosis with Sophia and Yadaboth, her quote-unquote son. But Apep was commonly believed to have existed from the beginning of time in the waters of the new of primeval chaos. And what did God do? He created man in his image above the waters. What do waters do? They reflect an image back at you, like Narcissus. But he admired his own reflection so much that he fell in and he drowned. That's where we got the terminology narcissist. If you're still here with me, thank you for being here. I am so put off by people seeming overly hostile around me and almost vibrating with a barely disguised violence right under the surface. And I don't want to say that I'm scared because I'm not. I'm just ready for whatever is going to happen. At the same time, I'll not see anyone around me harmed. I'm a pacifist. So, and I know people disagree with me on all of these things, that I don't eat meat. I put that sacrifice up to God. God asked me to stop doing it, and I said, you know what? It's something I love. I love bacon. I was a bacon girl, and that was the first thing I gave up. This is my repentance for my fellow man, for my past in harming others. I'm doing my best to not harm, but at the same time, I'm not going to not speak truth because it makes people feel better, or because I can't hide who I am. Much like in Rudy, the Jewish boy, he couldn't, he had his Star of David and he always hid it. I hid being a vegetarian for as long as I could from the people I worked with because I knew how it affected people. And I know that the people around me in this town, God loved them. God delivers and saves all those who call upon them. That's New Testament. We have to come out of the Old Testament and quit condemning everyone because we don't know exactly how this is going to turn itself out. So I believe anyone can repent. And I love some of these individuals that I believe to be of different bloodlines than myself. But I also know this is why they hate me. And now somebody started noticing that when I ask for rain or certain weather, I appear to get it or receive it. So now that's something else I have to try and stifle about myself, or talk less about God throughout my day because people are sick of hearing it. That's because there's an internal problem, and so many of us are living in conflict with our own conscience. And I know this video is going to be hated. I know I'll lose subscribers instead of gain them. Sadly, we are severely desensitized to a lot of things. And if you have not cried in a long time, or you have not had any emotion other than anger or resentment in a long time, or if you are arguing with people over superficial ideologies about voting, right? I'm just personally not choosing the lesser of two evils. If other people want to do that, that's entirely up to them. I don't look down on you for it. I would just say stop allowing it to tear apart families. Have real relationships again. Touch grass. Take a walk in the sand or in the grass with your shoes off and ground yourself. Stop degrading others because, oh, they look like hippies, or oh, they're homeless, they must be an addict. Those people are more free than you and I. They have no clock to clock into. And don't you ever wonder why there are all those voices under those videos that seem to want to irritate and divide and get people in arguments? If for no other reason than to muck the system, stop allowing yourself to be manipulated. Show your fellow man some compassion again. And it will get easier again, and it will soften your heart, because that's the only thing that's going to help us. Becoming hardened even more is not going to help us at this time. Now, being a little detached, yeah, that's a good thing. Okay, so battles with Ra. Again, this goes on throughout history. I had something that I had found at a consignment shop at a thrift store, and it was parchment, and it looked real. And I got rid of it because they told me it was idolatrous, but I kind of wish I hadn't gotten rid of it. And actually, it looked a lot like that right there. It was, I think it was Ra, the sun god, because the disc was above his head. And then you had the boat, right? But there was hieroglyphs above, and I don't think the Apep snake was on it. I don't think. So that's set sparing the snake apep, right now in America, we have cults or churches dedicated to Set. I know this. The sun god Ra in the form of great cat. Oh, so there's why we like cats. Because of Ra. And don't get me wrong, I love the sun. But I love the one who created it and put it in the sky more than I love the sun, and I thank that one for the sun. Do you see what I mean? There is a difference. We try to deify everything, and I'm not saying that like nature's elements and beings that might be different than us or on different frequencies, or if you're different than I am. I'm not saying we have to hate each other or anything like that. I'm the one saying like we should not hate each other and we should be able to coexist. The problem is everybody wants like one religion to take over the world. That ideology, that violent spirit is not the true God. And it's driving a lot of radical men in every group, even Christianity, or something disguising itself as Christianity. Radical Islam. I've had great conversations with a lot of Muslim people. But there are radicals in every group. So again, we can't like look at one group and demonize them continuously. Christians shouldn't do it, and Christians shouldn't have it done to them. We should be able to learn from each other and respect the belief systems that other people have. And if they don't want converted, they don't want converted. But now the whole sacrificing to gods and that whole bit, we're supposed to be out of that behavior. There was a reason Christ came was, and the prophets came. They told us to stop sacrificing to false idols. It's something that we do as humans. We feel like we have to do it. I give sacrifices up to God because I'm like, here, I'm not going to do these old ways anymore when I was carnal. Now I'm trying to live in the spirit. So I'm going to give up partaking of flesh and blood. It's obviously a trade-off, of course. But I'm not telling you that you have to do it. Do you see what I mean? There's a difference. Just like communal living of the Essenes was by choice. And the Carthens, that was all by choice when they lived by the rivers in their communal little neighborhoods. And they lived chaste lives because Babylon had gotten so evil. You get to the point like me where you've gotten tired of men, dirty old men, following you around, hitting on you, or like me, stalking you because you're different than everybody else, wondering what you're doing all the time, spying on you. Like, either tell me what you're up to or leave me alone. I do not consent. Like, just leave me be. But to like try and ensure that I can't just sit and relax, or I can't go buy a book. I'm still giving my money to local shops. Why can't you leave me be? And if there's something I need to know, by all means, tell me. But I shouldn't have to tell people that like I'm gay just to be left alone by men. So they hate me for that now too, because I told one of them I was gay. Because I got tired of it. Just because you talk to someone doesn't mean you want to get naked with them. I don't understand. Like, everybody has really, the frequency that people are vibrating on is very debased at this point. Not all people, but some, it's very obvious, and it's gross. It's a turn off. And am I a feminist now? I'm not any of those things, man. I'm just a woman who's trying to be better than I was yesterday, and I don't need the grief. Because see, when you do things like that, you push people into sin too. The sin of anger, the sin of resentment, the sin of bitterness. And then you're not blessed anymore. You'll become cursed too. You're either blessed or cursed in this world. And you don't always get what you give. You got to count the cost. I gave up things for the love of my neighbors, for God to hear my prayers. Hey, I'm not perfect. I'm still in a bad situation, but please let my prayers count for my family and friends. I just want y'all to wake up all the way. Not everyone around us has good intentions. Not everyone around us has entirely human DNA. These people, they're not our peers. They do believe that they are entitled, they are better than us, we are nothing to them, we are lower than Gentiles and Goyim. We are here for their pleasure and to serve them and to entertain them, they think, and nothing else. We are in Babylon. We just don't have physical chains. Not yet, but that's coming. Once they turn that electric fence on. Remember, everything they do has multiple purposes. Very possible some of these towers, the reason that there's 5, 6, 10, 20 of them all over the place is because they act like electric fences. They're all connected through the 5G. And we're in a bad position, guys. We just are. And we're dealing with these people. But the good news is some of them, like Enlil and Enki, like Christ and Lucifer, allegedly. I'm still not even sure about that either. Like, I've got questions when it comes to who exactly the adversary is or whatever. Satan, Samael, like all of them, right? Elaborated during the new kingdom. Now you see their kingdom fell too. The kingdoms always fall, and it's like they're here so long that they set up these pretty much scripts to follow. And in one era, this person will be popular, right? And this person will be a star, and this person will be a leader. In that incarnation, and then the next one. And they partake of this, what I call the fake reincarnation system, because God cursed them to be called evil spirits and walk the earth forever or until the day of judgment. I believe, though, I pray and I hope that God's will be done and that everyone is saved. That's just what I hope for. And there has to be a period of peace. Come on. You know, we've had our periods of war. We've had our periods of discontent. There's got to be a period where truth is revealed and certain things are rooted out, and there's, a pruning process that takes place, and where we live in a period of growth, spiritual growth, and wisdom and knowledge, much like the Renaissance period, right? That's like my keeping my eye on that, on like the kingdom of Christ. And again, it's not always what people think it is. So it says in some stories, Apep waited for Ra in a western mountain called Manu, which is fascinating because if you look at all the places, and we're going to look at a map, we're going to look at maps real soon. America, every place like that you go, like here for me, Nelson Quarry, Nelson Ledges, everything's like the devil's pit, the devil's well, the devil's staircase, over and over, everywhere. No offense, but I strongly dislike Ohio in some ways. Spiritually, it's like under something that is very uncomfortable for me. But it's good for me too because it's a refining process. And if I can make it under these circumstances, I know that I can endure pretty much anywhere through the grace and help of God, of course. And I know, again, people are sick of hearing that, and that doesn't make me very popular, but it is what it is. So that's interesting. We have a national park in a mountain called Mount Zion. Utah is covered with places named after Christ, thanks to the Mormon Church. Again, I don't think they're all wicked either. I think they've got some truth in their book, and that's the problem with half-truths, man, is I don't know, this duality sometimes, like I see the necessity of it, but sometimes you just want for it to be over. Like, can't we all just be in a time of peace right now? Anyways. Oh, wow. Storytellers said that every day Apep must lie below the horizon and not persist in the mortal kingdom. This appropriately made him a part of the underworld. In some stories, Apep waited for Ra in a western mountain called Manu, where the sun set, and in others, Apep lurked just before dawn in the 10th region of the night. The wide range of Apep's possible locations gained him the title World Encircler. Oh, wow, that's cool. I mean, the mythology of it, the history. It was thought that his terrifying roar would cause the underworld to rumble. Myths sometimes said that Apep was trapped there because he had been the previous chief god, overthrown by Ra or because he was evil. And America is Babylon, guys. America means feathered dragon. And that's what this thing is. Can you see it in your mind's eye? And so many people can't even daydream anymore. Like, I don't know what's wrong with everybody. So here it says, it was thought that his terrifying roar would cause the underworld to rumble. We hear all that stuff in our tunnels all the time. Myths sometimes say that Apep was trapped there, like literally underground, because he had been the previous chief god, Native American Indian, chief. I wonder, I have a weird theory, and I don't even want to say it because I would have to go find out for myself. So yes, sometimes he's a snake and sometimes he's a dragon. And America is means feathered dragon. You got to be kidding me. The coffin texts, what is that? Ugh, imply that Apep used, oh yeah, and like cryptocurrency, a crypt. Like this is all bad, guys. Cryptocurrency is going to be like the shackles that bind everybody. The coffin texts, like why are they called crypts, man? Why? Why you got to call them that? Think, man. Currency, that's what electricity does. The coffin texts imply that Apep used a magical gaze. That's mesmerism, or AKA, otherwise known as hypnotism, to overwhelm Ra and his entourage. Ra was assisted by a number of defenders who traveled with him, including Set and possibly the Eye of Ra. Apep's movements were thought to cause earthquakes, and his battles with Set may have been meant to explain the origin of thunderstorms. In one account, Ra himself defeats Apep in the form of a cat. Wow. That's actually kind of, like I can appreciate the mythology here. That's actually a kind of cool mythology. But again, Enlil, Enki, I think they're all the same beings, just different incarnations. Okay, so now this tells you like the actual practices. And again, the Mormon temples, the inside from what I've seen in pictures, I've never been inside one. I've been in the church, not the temple, two completely different things. The insides and the way they wear the white linen, that's very Egyptian. And Christ himself was wrapped in linen when he had passed and rubbed with herbs and oils. So again, these things, they sprung from one original source to begin with. But we knew what things were and we hadn't forgotten. And it's very possible, again, that the Creator God said, look, hide yourself from the humans because they're not ready for all this yet. Or, you're all cohabitating and procreating. You're not supposed to be, you're a little out of control. You were supposed to grow first as spirits, right? Wow, that's crazy. And I love thunderstorms. And I usually get them when I ask for them. But anyways, Ra's victory each night was thought to be ensured by the prayers of the Egyptian priests and worshippers at temples. The Egyptians practiced a number of rituals and superstitions that were thought to ward off Apep and aid Ra in continuing his journey across the sky. In an annual rite called the Ritual of Overthrowing Apophis, priests would build an effigy of Apep that was thought to contain all of the evil and darkness in Egypt. Hold up, wait. Build an effigy, sculpture, or model of a person or deity. Like an idol. But then they were told to smash all the idols because demons were attached to them. But what if it actually let them out? Okay, let's there's a theory that all the statues are actually living beings and they are fallen angels when God did the flood. And some of them are in the marine kingdom, some of them were frozen, and all the people frozen would have been frozen by Medusa. Like there's a theory that is what's going on over there too. This is wild. But if you start putting it all together, it doesn't sound so crazy anymore. And I mean, look at our buildings. Look at Washington, D.C. It's like Little Greece or Little Egypt. And Greece and Rome kind of are based off of a lot of that too, with the white linens and the marble and the Freemasonry with the pillars on either side, right? And the earth is called the footstool, which is hung upon a pillar of God. So this, I mean, there is truth in all of these things. The problem is the enemy is within all of us. So we all have the capacity to be wicked, right? That's that duality. Okay, so Egyptians practiced a number of rituals that were said. Okay, so Apep was thought to contain all of the evil and darkness in Egypt and burn it to protect everyone from Apep's evil for another year. Oh, wow, that's wild. Makes you wonder about like the Statue of Liberty and stuff. The Egyptian priests had a detailed guide to fighting Apep, referred to as the books of overthrowing Apep, or the book of Apophis in Greek. The chapters described a gradual process of dishonoring, dismemberment, and disposal, which include spitting upon Apep, defiling Apep with the left foot, taking a lance to smite Apep, fettering Apep, which is tying up, I think, taking a knife to putting fire upon Apep. Oh my gosh. For making wax models or small drawings of the serpent, which would be spat on. Oh, so they're not even like, it's like a voodoo doll, basically. Same concept, right? But if you're making idols of demons and you're not deifying them, but you're like, I don't know, this is neither one of those things seems good, right? Neither side of those, I don't know. Fearing that even the image of Apep could give power to the demon, any rendering would always include another deity to subdue the monster. And aren't we, the Bible even says no engraven images, and that's actually a commandment. It's in the 10 for Mormons, but the Catholics are a little different. And I find it weird because the Mormons say no graven image, but in their churches they have pictures everywhere of Christ, but no crosses. So which, do you see how it could just be perspective? Do you see how almost everything in life has a lot to do with intention? As Apep was thought to live in the underworld, he was sometimes thought of as an eater of souls. Thus, the dead also needed protection, so they were sometimes buried with spells that could destroy Apep. The Book of the Dead does not frequently describe occasions when Ra defeated the Chaos Snake, explicitly called Apep. Only Book of the Dead spells 7 and 39 can be explained as such. Wow, that's wild, guys. And so here's some renderings for you. Now, what does that remind you of? So let's go check this. Let's check this out. And again, this is my neck of the woods. It's south of me, but more proof. You need more proof that this is Babylon, guys. The feathered serpent. Let's check a look and see what it looks like from above. Serpent Mound, located in southwest Ohio. I'm in northeast Ohio. Some people think it is a snake eating an egg. It could also be a snake fertilizing an egg, if you get my meaning there, scientifically speaking. Sperm and the egg. So it could, well, the mouth does appear to be open though, if you call that a mouth. So we have that, and we were just reading that this is an Egyptian mythology. Now, mythology, again, does not mean false. Mythology just means history in Greek. So this is what it looks like. How wicked. Like, who would need to see that? Are they just like thumbing up their nose at God? Like, neener, or is this something they're allowed to do or should be done? Are they communicating with somebody up there? Right? So you tell me, please convince me that America is not Babylon. And I'll wait, even. Better yet, somebody flying a plane. Film the whole thing in the window seat. Show me how you get to certain other places on the globe. Show me if it's a globe. Because I think some of us have been severely miseducated and misinformed, and definitely on purpose, because again, it's some kind of game for them, and they think it's funny. Okay, so did I touch on everything I wanted to touch on? Again, I know I probably lost subs because of my perspective about voting and what it actually is and how it binds your spirit and that we're all sovereign. But again, I talked about a lot of these patterns. I'm not a witch. I talk to God. That's who I talk to in prayer. And then I wait. God does have generals and warriors and ministers, and they're all angels, whatever you want to call them, higher frequency beings, aliens. I don't care what you call them. They might care. I don't care. But some of this, a lot of it stems from the same place. So you have to ask yourself, one world religion, like, is that what the Most High Creator wants for us? Is there supposed to be just one? Because we used to work side by side. Things like this are proof of it. And they can't possibly be afraid of us, right? If they've lived so long. Here's the solar alignments that match up. I'd also like to talk about ley lines really soon. And I did say I was going to upload another short video. Oh yes, because I want to show you. I want to show you that picture. There is something going on, and the patterns are all the same. They're following the patterns that we see in England. What the president, what that will look like, what that person's place will be in all this, I'm not sure. It's very possible that they will openly hand over America's sovereignty to another quote unquote authority. It's very possible that that will just happen because of the chaos surrounding and the anger and hostility surrounding this election, that it could very well go to martial law. Why do you think they want the Postal Service shut down? If the Postal Service shuts down, that's your sign that they have quietly instated martial law without telling anybody, because we've been in medical martial law for a while now. And again, things we say, are being restricted and restrained, and that's very communistic-esque, dictatorship-wise. I think God is going to give us the leaders that we deserve, and I think we need to all apologize to our children and the person who is coming after us, and we didn't know either. And I think we need to stop idolizing and deifying these images on the screen of people that we don't even know if they're real, number one. Number two, they are not our peers. They're each other's peers. This is all an act for them. This is fun for them. They're all like 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th cousins. They're all related. It's the same bloodline. And there are very nasty, nefarious things happening. I could talk about what I've noticed on another channel about how they're using like Blender or an AI app to make it look like there's still two of them, when I think there's only one of them left. See, because I'm a mother, and I can tell when another mother is distressed or under stressed. And I've been watching a few Appalachian channels, and some of them are from the same family. The things going on now with this younger generation, the way they are focused on materialism and how angry they are at people, at their parents. And I'm not saying they don't have that right, but I think every generation goes through it. But this one is very angry, and this one has been genetically tinkered with. And you don't have to believe me. It's obvious now we're not all the same. And that doesn't have to be a bad thing. Don't allow yourself to be baited. Be the better version of you than you were yesterday. Just try to do a little better than you did the day before, and try not to ridicule your fellow man, because very soon places are going to be swapped, and then you'll be in a position that you didn't want to be in. I love you guys. I do. And I hope we can have a lot more cool conversations. I have a book that I'm going to read from. One is Native American in origin, and the other one is Mark Twain. I found a classic book where he wrote about, or at least gathered together, the documentation on Joan of Arc. And so I'm going to do a short reading from that regarding elitism and sovereignty. And, some people are libertarian in nature. I don't want myself put in a category. I am a sovereign being, and they call sovereign citizens. What are those? I don't even know. I don't know how to talk the way they talk. I'm not going to go through all that trouble. I'm not going to bind up my own tongue. But I'm also not going to be forced to do things that I just don't want to do and I don't want to participate in. I'm not going to be counted guilty. I've done enough harm in this world. I'm not doing anymore if I can help it. But you don't have to be that way. If you think voting will change things for America, by all means. But understand what you're getting. People can talk bad about Barack all they want. He was dignified. He had some class about himself. He was well-spoken. He wouldn't lower himself to get in some of these degrading arguments with people. I'm sorry, but I don't like any of these choices. Vote for Kennedy. And I said that to a young person the other day, and I was really disappointed. We can't vote for him because he's, dead. I said, no, not that Kennedy. They don't even know Kennedy's voting or running. Vote independent. Vote for Kennedy. It certainly can't be any worse than sleepy android Joe, whatever he is, masked, crusader, whatever he thinks he is. I don't know, guys. Be wise. Be careful. Last time I was on Facebook, there were a lot of people that I was friends with from Israel. And when he won the first time, they were laughing at America, saying, you should have known who you were voting for. And he read that snake poem, man. I don't know, guys. Ain't no politician the savior. And ain't no king my king other than Christ. Have a blessed day.